Welcome to Talk Treatises.
It's great to be here.
Today, we are tackling something massive. And when I say massive, I don't just mean a long book. I mean, we are looking at a text that is, well, you could argue it's the operating system for a huge chunk of Western civilization.
That's a good way to put it. It's a story that bridges that gap between the wild, chaotic myths of Greece and the iron discipline of Rome.
Exactly. It's an adventure story, a war story, a romance, but it's also something much, much stranger.
It is. It's a text that, on the surface, functions as a founding myth for the Roman Empire. But underneath that, it is a classic text from the ancient mystery traditions.
The mystery traditions.
Absolutely. It explores the nature of the soul, the structure of the cosmos, and the terrifying weight of destiny.
We are, of course, doing a deep dive into Virgil's The Aeneid. Now, most people know the bumper sticker version.
Right.
Aeneas flees burning Troy, has a fling with Queen Dido, leaves her, and goes on to found the lineage of Rome.
The highlight reel.
The highlight reel, exactly. But when you actually read it, and we've gone through the whole thing line by line, it is so much more complicated. The central question seems to be, what happens when your personal happiness collides with divine destiny?
Exactly. That is the core tension. Is a hero defined by what they conquer, or is it about what they suffer, what they sacrifice?
And Virgil isn't just writing a sequel to Homer, is he?
Not at all. You have to understand, he is codifying the Roman understanding of fatum, of fate. In the Greek world, heroes like Achilles were all about kleos, personal glory.
Right. They wanted their names to live forever because they were amazing at fighting.
Precisely. Aeneas is different. He is seeking something much, much heavier. He's seeking pietas.
Okay, let's stop on that word for a second. Pietas.
Right.
Because we translate it as piety, but that makes him sound like he just, goes to church on Sundays.
It's a terrible translation for what it means here.
It's not what it means, is it?
Not at all. Pietas is a much more muscular, much more difficult concept. It effectively means duty, but it's more specific. It means subordinating your own ego, your own desires, to the will of the gods, the needs of your family, and the destiny of your people.
So it's the absolute opposite of our modern mantra, follow your bliss.
It's follow your burden.
And that submission isn't easy. It's painful. This isn't a superhero movie where the hero is excited to save the world. Aeneas, half the time, just looks like he wants to sit down and rest. He wants to stop.
He is a man carrying the weight of the past on his shoulders and leading the future by the hand. And I mean that quite literally. He's the weary executive of destiny.
So our mission for this deep dive is to track that journey. We want to look at Aeneas not just as a general, but as an initiate, someone undergoing a kind of spiritual transformation.
Yes, and we need to decode the symbolism, the underworld, the golden bow, that incredible shield.
And we need to understand the cost of empire.
And that cost is almost always paid in blood and trauma.
Okay, let's jump right in. The story, like all good epics, starts in medias res.
In the middle of things.
So where do we find our hero? Not in Troy.
No, we find him 7 years after the fall of Troy. He and his fleet of refugees are just wandering the Mediterranean trying to find this promised land of Hesperia, which is Italy.
And they are tired.
They are exhausted, they are battered, and they are currently sailing straight into a trap.
A trap set by the queen of the gods herself, Juno. Now, in a lot of mythology, the guides are sort of distant observers, but here, Juno is actively hunting him. Why? Why does she hate Aeneas so much?
Juno is the primary antagonist. Her rage, her furor, is what drives the entire plot. And the text gives us 3 very specific reasons for her hatred, and they are wonderfully petty.
Petty.
Oh, incredibly so. And that's the first thing you have to understand about this worldview. The universe is hostile because the powers that run it hold personal grudges.
Okay, lay them out for us. What are the grudges?
First, she loves the city of Carthage. It's her favorite place. She keeps her armor there, her chariot. But there's a prophecy fade again, that the descendants of Troy, who will become the Romans, will one day burn Carthage to the ground.
Which is a nice little nod to the Punic Wars. The Roman readers would have picked up on that immediately. It's historical retconning.
It's brilliant, yes. Second, she is still furious about the judgment of Paris.
This goes way back.
All the way back to the Trojan War's origins. Paris, a Trojan prince, had to judge a divine beauty contest between Juno, Minerva, and Venus. He picked Venus. Juno has never, ever forgiven the Trojans for that slight to her vanity.
So the entire geopolitical future of the Mediterranean is being dictated by a goddess who lost a beauty pageant.
In a way, yes. And third, and this one is even more personal, she's jealous of Ganymede.
Who was Ganymede?
Ganymede was a beautiful Trojan boy who was snatched up by Jupiter, Juno's husband, to be his cupbearer on Olympus. This displaced Juno's own daughter, Hebe. from the job. So every time she looks at a Trojan, she sees her husband's infidelity and her daughter's unemployment.
So it's political, it's personal, and it's deeply petty.
It is entirely petty. And because of all this, she goes to Aeolus, the king of the winds, and bribes him to unleash a massive storm. And this isn't just a bit of rain.
No, the way it's described is apocalyptic.
It is. The winds are described as impatient captives roaring against the walls of a mountain, and when they're released, they churn the sea so deep the sand comes up from the bottom.
Aeneas' reaction here is so telling. This is our first real look at the hero of the story. The storm hits, masts are snapping, men are being washed overboard. And what does Aeneas do? He doesn't grab the helm and shout orders like some action hero.
Right. He raises his hands to the stars and wishes he were dead.
He literally says, "Thrice and 4 times happy those that under Ilian walls before their parents died."
It is a moment of total, crushing despair. He wishes he had fallen with Hector at Troy. It sets the tone for his character immediately.
Yeah.
This is a man who is surviving, but he is not enjoying it. He's being dragged forward by obligation, not by ambition.
They eventually manage to crash land on the coast of Libya. And this leads us into that first huge flashback sequence. Because to understand Aeneas, you have to understand the trauma he's running from.
Right. In book 2, he sits down and tells the whole story of the fall of Troy to Queen Dido. And the imagery here, it's just straight out of a horror movie.
It's the ultimate catastrophe. And it all hinges on the deception of the Trojan horse.
It does, but notice how Virgil frames it. We have this modern idea that the Trojans were just stupid for bringing the horse inside, but Virgil makes it very clear they were suspicious. Laocoon, the priest of Neptune, literally throws a spear at the horse's side.
He warns them. He says, "I fear the Greeks, even when bearing gifts." He can hear the armor clanking inside the wood. He knows something is wrong.
He hits the belly of the beast. The text says the womb of the horse reverberated with a groan. They were this close to setting it on fire.
And then the gods intervene. And this is maybe one of the most disturbing scenes in the entire book.
It's horrific. 2 giant sea serpents come gliding out of the ocean.
The description is chilling. They have flaming crests, and their eyes are suffused with blood and fire.
And they slither up the beach, and they don't attack the soldiers. They go straight for Laocoon and his 2 young sons.
Yeah.
They wrap around them and just strangle them. It's a gruesome, slow, awful death.
And then, and this is the key part, the snakes slide up to the citadel and hide under the shield of the statue of the goddess Minerva.
Right. So if you're a Trojan soldier watching this, what do you think? What's the conclusion you draw?
You think, oh my God, Laocoon was wrong. He desecrated a holy object, and the goddess Minerva sent her pets to punish him for it. We have to bring the horse inside now to appease her.
It's divine gaslighting.
It is. The gods use the Trojans' own piety against them.
Exactly. Their religious devotion becomes the instrument of their own destruction. So that night, the Greeks pour out of the horse and the slaughter begins. Aeneas is asleep, and he gets a visitor in his dream.
The ghost of Hector, the greatest Trojan hero, but he doesn't look like a hero anymore.
No. He looks like he did after Achilles dragged his body behind the chariot for days. He's covered in dust and blood. His feet are swollen and pierced from the thongs. It's a critical moment for the reader. It tells you that in the Aeneid, heroism has a shelf life. Even the greatest warrior ends up as a mangled corpse.
And Hector's message is simple.
Fuge. Flee. Troy is gone. Don't die for it. Your job now is to take the household gods and run.
This goes against every heroic code in the Iliad, doesn't it? The old way was to stand and fight and die for your city.
Completely. And Aeneas tries to do that at first. He wakes up, he's in a daze, he gathers a few guys, and they get into this chaotic, desperate street fighting. He describes seeing the streets filled with frequent funerals.
But it's hopeless.
It's utterly hopeless. Eventually, his mother, the goddess Venus, lifts the veil from his eyes, which is a classic mystery tradition moment, seeing the reality behind the illusion, and he sees the gods themselves physically tearing the city apart. Neptune is shaking the foundations, and Juno is standing in the main gate, calling in more enemies.
The age of Troy is over. There's no fighting the gods.
No. And then we get that iconic image, the one that I think defines the whole book. Aeneas finally accepting it and leaving the burning city.
He's carrying his elderly father, Anchises, on his shoulders.
And Anchises is holding the Piety, the sacred household gods.
And holding Aeneas' hand is his little son, Iulus, who's also called Ascanius.
The past on his shoulders, the future by his hand.
And Aeneas himself is the bridge. He's the present moment that has to bear the weight of the past to ensure the future can even exist.
But there is a tragedy in this image too. Because Who's following behind them?
His wife, Creusa,
Yet in the chaos, she gets lost.
which is just heartbreaking. He gets to the safe meeting point, realizes she isn't there, and in a panic, he runs back into the burning city to find her. He's screaming her name through the streets.
But he only finds her ghost.
And her ghost tells him to stop. She says something like, "A long exile is your lot. A royal bride awaits you." She basically releases him from his marriage.
This is the first great stripping away for Aeneas. To become the founder of Rome, he has to lose his identity as a Trojan husband, as a warrior of the old world. He has to lose his wife so he can eventually marry into the Latin bloodline to create the Roman people.
It's the cold, hard calculus of fate. The individual doesn't matter, only the mission matters.
Exactly. So they flee. They wander for 7 long years. They stop in Thrace, Crete, Sicily. His father, Anchises, dies in Sicily, which is another huge personal blow. And finally, that storm we talked about blows them to Carthage.
Which brings us to Book 4, The Tragedy of Dido.
Oh man, book 4.
This is often called the first real romance in Western literature, but reading it again for this deep dive, it felt more like a psychological thriller. It's almost a horror story about love.
It really is, because it's not organic. Juno and Venus conspire to make Dido fall in love with Aeneas. Juno wants to trap him in Africa so Rome never happens. Venus just wants her son to be safe for a while.
And poor Dido never stood a chance. You have to appreciate who Dido is before this. She is not some damsel in distress.
Not in the slightest. She's a powerful queen. She's a refugee herself. She had to flee her home in Tyre after her own brother murdered her husband. She came to Africa and built the city of Carthage from nothing. She is Aeneas's equal. In a lot of ways, she represents what Aeneas could be if he just stopped moving.
But then Cupid, disguised as Aeneas' son Ascanius, sits in her lap and literally breathes poison into her. Virgil uses the language of fire and sickness. She is consumed by a hidden fire, a wound inside her.
And what about Aeneas?
That is the great debate, isn't it? Does he love her, or is he just settling, finally finding a place to rest?
The text implies he's happy, or at least he's comfortable. He starts wearing Carthaginian purple robes, studded with gold. He's actively helping her build her city.
And then they have that moment in the caves. A hunting party, storm of course, a storm drives them into a cave for shelter and they consummate the relationship. Dido calls it a marriage.
She does, but the text is sly. It says, she calls it marriage and with this name screens her fault. It's deeply ambiguous. Aeneas never explicitly says, will you marry me?
No, but he acts like a husband. He takes on the role of consort, maybe even the future king of Carthage.
And this is what brings down Jupiter's wrath. Rome is not in Africa. Rome is in Italy. So he sends Mercury, the messenger god, down with a very harsh message.
And Mercury finds Aeneas supervising the construction of Carthage's new towers, wearing a sword studded with yellow jasper, a gift from Dido. He looks like a Carthaginian dandy.
He does. And Mercury basically says, what are you doing? You are building a city for someone else. If you don't care about your own glory, at least think of your son. You are stealing his kingdom from him.
Aeneas is terrified. The text says his hair stands on end, his voice sticks in his throat, and his reaction is immediate.
No hesitation. He tells his men to start packing up the ships in secret. His initial plan is to leave without even saying goodbye.
Okay, we have to pause here, because to a modern reader, this makes Aeneas look like an absolute villain, a monster. He's going to ghost the woman who saved his life. He's going to sneak out the back door.
On a purely human level, it looks like cowardice. But to a Roman reader, this was the ultimate proof of his heroism. This is the triumph of Pietas over furor, over personal passion.
He has to sacrifice his happiness, his comfort, his love for the divine command.
He has to suppress his own heart. And when Dido inevitably finds out and confronts him, and she confronts him in a towering rage, he says a line that is just devastating.
I do not sail to Italy of my own free will.
Italiam non sponte sequor. It's his entire defense.
I am not the main character of my own life. That's basically what he's saying.
Exactly. He's saying, I want to stay, I might even love you, but the gods say go, so I have to go.
Dido does not buy it. Her reaction is not stoic. She curses him. And it's not just a simple, I hope you die curse. It's a historical curse.
It's a geopolitical curse. She prays that an avenger will rise from her bones to hound the Trojan settlers with fire and sword for all time.
She's prophesying Hannibal.
She is prophesying the Punic Wars. She is praying for eternal enmity between Carthage and Rome. And then she has a huge funeral pyre built filled with all the things Aeneas left behind. She climbs on top and she stabs herself with his sword.
Aeneas sees the smoke from his ship as he sails away. He doesn't know for sure what it is, but the text says his soul had a dark foreboding. He has just destroyed a good woman, a great queen, and a potential ally, all to follow a map he's never seen to a land he doesn't know.
That is the cost of empire, and it leaves him hollowed out. Which is precisely why, before he can go fight the wars in Italy, he needs to understand why he's doing all this. He needs an initiation. He needs to go to the underworld.
He needs book 6, and this is where the text gets incredibly esoteric. This isn't just an adventure anymore. It's a deep dive into the mystery traditions. It feels like we are stepping out of an epic poem and into a sacred text.
It really does. It has echoes of the Eleusinian mysteries, the Orphic traditions. It's a completely different tone. Aeneas lands at Cumae in Italy, and he seeks out the Sibyl, the prophetess of Apollo.
And she tells him that the descent to Avernus, to the underworld, is easy.
The door of black Dis stands open night and day. Anyone can go to hell. But to retrace your steps and escape back to the upper air, hic labor, hoc opus est. That is the toil. That is the task.
And to even attempt it, he needs a special key, the golden bough.
Yes. A bough with golden leaves and a golden stem, hidden deep in a dark forest. And the Sibyl gives him a strange instruction. She says he cannot use force to get it. If he is called by fate, the bough will break off easily in his hand. If he is not, no amount of strength, no steel blade can hack it off.
This is that doctrine of non-resistance to fate again. I love the thought experiment this sets up, which we can get into later. This idea that if something is meant for you, it yields. If you have to force it, it's the wrong path.
Aeneas wanders into the forest, and 2 doves sent by his mother Venus lead him to the tree. He reaches up and grasps the bough. The text says it delays for a moment, but then it breaks off. He has his ticket. He can enter the underworld.
And we get this incredible map of the afterlife. The river Acheron, the ancient grumpy ferryman Charon, and Aeneas sees the souls of the unburied dead crowded on the banks, unable to cross over.
Including his own pilot, Palinurus, who fell overboard just a few nights before.
Which was another sacrifice, wasn't it?
Another sacrifice. The god Neptune had demanded one life for many to grant the fleet safe passage to Italy. The universe of the Aeneid operates on a strict transactional basis. You don't get safe passage for free. Somebody has to die.
So they cross the river and they pass through the fields of mourning. And this is where Aeneas runs into Dido again.
This scene is just cinematic perfection. He sees her, a dim shape through the shadows, like a new moon seen through clouds, and he weeps. He tries to explain himself.
I left your shore unwillingly, O queen. He swears by the stars, by the gods. He wants forgiveness. He wants closure.
And what does she do?
She says nothing. She just stands there, her face like a piece of hard flint. She doesn't even look at him. She turns away and flees back into the shady grove where her first husband, Sychaeus, is there to comfort her.
It is the closure of no closure.
Exactly. Aeneas realizes that his duty, his Pietas, has caused permanent, irreparable damage that he can never fix. He just has to keep walking. That silence is so much louder than any curse she screamed at him in book 4.
It is. It's the silence of the dead who are now beyond our excuses and our apologies.
So he moves on. He moves past the fields of the war heroes, past the terrifying fortress of Tartarus where the great sinners are punished, and he finally reaches Elysium, the fields of the blessed, to find his father, Anchises.
And this is the absolute core of the initiation. Anchises is in this beautiful green valley, and he's surveying a vast crowd of souls that are hovering like bees around a river. Aeneas tries to hug his father 3 times, and 3 times his hands just pass right through the ghost.
And Aeneas asks him, who are all these people? And this is where Anchises explains the metaphysics of the whole universe. This is where we get the source code.
It's incredible. Anchises explains that a spiritus into the spirit within sustains the entire cosmos. A universal mind moves the mass. Everything, every living thing comes from this divine fiery source.
But souls get clogged up by the body.
Exactly. The body is earthy, heavy, mortal. It corrupts the pure soul with fear, desire, grief, and joy, what the Stoics would call the passions. When people die, their souls are still stained, so they have to be purged.
It's a very purgatorial concept. He talks about some souls being hung in the wind to have the evil blown out of them. Others are washed in a vast whirlpool or refined by fire.
It is a long, slow cleansing. It takes 1,000 years, he says, to scrub the humanity off so the soul can be pure spirit again. And after 1,000 years, they are brought to the river Lethe.
The river of forgetfulness.
And they drink from it to erase all their memories of their past lives so they can be willing to return to bodies and live again.
Reincarnation.
Specifically the transmigration of souls. And Anchises uses this to show Aeneas the future. He says, look, all these souls waiting to be born, they are the future heroes of Rome. And he points them out. See there, that one will be Romulus. There is Caesar. And there, that is Augustus, who will bring back the Golden Age.
It's a brilliant narrative device. It allows Virgil to include the history of his own time, of his patron, the Emperor Augustus, and frame it as ancient prophecy.
But it does more than that. It transforms Aeneas' suffering. Suddenly, all that pain, the loss of his wife, the destruction of Dido, the fall of Troy, it all has a purpose. It is the necessary fuel for this glorious future he's now seen.
But Virgil, being Virgil, leaves us with a shadow of doubt, little twist at the end.
He does. He explains there are two gates of sleep out of the underworld. The gate of horn, through which true shades and true visions exit, and the gate of ivory, through which false dreams are sent up to the world of the living.
And Anchises sends Aeneas and the Sibyl out through the ivory gate, the gate of false dreams. Why?
Scholars have been arguing about that for 2,000 years. Is Virgil subtly suggesting that the glory of Rome is a lie, a false dream? Is he making a philosophical point that the entire physical world is just an illusion? Or is it just a technicality because Aeneas is a living man, not a true shade, so he can't exit through the true gate?
We don't know.
We don't know. But it casts this strange, ambiguous light on everything Aeneas has just learned. He leaves this profound revelation and walks straight back into the fog of war.
He comes back to the world, but he's energized now. He has a mission. He sails to Latium. And this is where the Aeneid completely shifts gears. The Odyssey part, the wandering is over. Now it becomes the Iliad, the war.
Books 7 through 12 are the war for Italy. Aeneas arrives, and at first everything looks good. King Latinus welcomes him. He recognizes an old prophecy that his daughter, Lavinia, is supposed to marry a foreigner. He offers her to Aeneas.
But the old fiancé, Turnus, the prince of the Rutulians, is not happy about this.
And neither is Juno. She sees things going way too smoothly. So she comes down from heaven and summons a fury, Alecto, from the depths of the underworld.
And I love the description of how Alecto works. She doesn't just mind control people. She finds their existing resentments and just pours gasoline on them.
She amplifies them into madness. She takes one of her snakes and throws it into the bosom of Queen Amata, Latinus's wife, who always wanted Turnus as a son-in-law. She throws a burning torch into Turnus's chest, filling him with a maddening lust for war.
And then, just to make sure the common people get involved, she causes Aeneas' son, Ascanius, who's out hunting, to accidentally shoot a pet stag.
A beloved pet stag that belonged to the royal herdsman's daughter.
That's the spark. A bar brawl turns into a skirmish, and a skirmish turns into an all-out war.
Aeneas has to find allies. He sails up the Tiber River to the future site of Rome, which at this point is just a poor little village called Pallantium, ruled by an old Greek exile named Evander.
This part is so cool for history buffs. Aeneas is literally walking around what will one day be the Roman Forum, but for now it's just pastures with cows and bushes.
And Evander is a crucial character. He's old, he's kind, he's poor. He agrees to give Aeneas troops, but more importantly, he entrusts his only son, Pallas, to Aeneas' care. He says, "Teach him how to be a warrior, and please return him to me."
We all know that's basically a death warrant in a story like this.
It is, but before they leave for the war, Venus gives Aeneas a new set of armor forged by the god Vulcan, and specifically, a shield.
The shield of Aeneas. This is a direct callback to the shield of Achilles in the Iliad, but there's a huge difference.
A massive difference. Achilles' shield showed generic scenes of life weddings, harvests, dances, a city at war. Aeneas' shield shows the specific, detailed future history of Rome.
It shows Romulus and Remus being suckled by the she-wolf. It shows the geese on the Capitoline Hill saving the city from the Gauls. And right in the center, it shows the Battle of Actium Augustus defeating Antony and Cleopatra.
The text says, Aeneas marvels at the images, ignorant of the things depicted, and lifts the shield onto his shoulder.
He literally shoulders the fame and fate of his descendants. He's carrying the weight of people who won't be born for 1,000 years. It is the ultimate perfect image of Pietas.
While Aeneas is away getting this shield and his new allies, the Trojan camp is besieged. And this gives us another one of Virgil's tragic little vignettes. The story of Nisus and Euryalus.
Oh, this one is so sad. A story of youth and waste.
It is. Nisus is an older, more experienced warrior. Euryalus is a very young, very beautiful boy. They're lovers, or at least intensely close companions, and they volunteer for a night mission. Sneak through the enemy lines to get a message to Aeneas.
It goes well at first. They get through, they slaughter a bunch of sleeping enemy captains. It's incredibly brutal.
But Euryalus, the younger one, gets greedy. He's caught up in the moment. He steals a plumed helmet from a dead captain because it's shiny and beautiful.
And as they're trying to escape, the moonlight catches the glint of that stolen helmet. An enemy patrol spots them.
They're surrounded. Nisus gets away into the woods, but then he realizes Euryalus isn't with him. He runs back into the teeth of death to try and save him. He sees Euryalus get captured and killed, and Nisus just goes into a berserker frenzy. He kills the enemy commander and then dies over his friend's body.
Virgil calls them a happy pair and says, "If my verse has any power, no day shall erase you from the memory of time."
But look at the theme again. Beautiful things, young things, love, loyalty, they are all ruthlessly destroyed by this war. It's not glorious, it's wasteful. Their heads are cut off and paraded on spears outside the Trojan camp. That is the grim reality Aeneas returns to.
Aeneas returns with his new Tuscan allies, and the battle begins in earnest. And this is where the tragedy of Pallas finally happens.
Pallas, the boy that Evander entrusted to Aeneas, finds himself face to face with the great champion Turnus. And Turnus is a giant compared to him. He kills Pallas easily.
And then he does something incredibly arrogant, something that will seal his own fate.
He rips off Pallas's heavy, ornate sword belt, which is decorated with the scene of the Danaids murdering their husbands on their wedding night, and he puts it on as a trophy.
And Virgil gives us a little aside to the audience. He says the time will come when Turnus will wish he had never touched it.
When Aeneas finds out that Pallas is dead, he just snaps. The pious Aeneas completely disappears. He becomes a butcher.
This is shocking to read. He captures 4 young men alive specifically to sacrifice them on Pallas's funeral pyre. Human sacrifice.
He cuts down a priest who is begging for his life. He kills men who are surrendering. He's Achilles now. He has completely succumbed to furor, to rage.
He hunts for Turnus, but Juno plays a trick and spirits Turnus away on a phantom ship, saving him for a little while longer. But Aeneas does kill the other main enemy leader, Mezentius.
And Mezentius is a fascinating character. He's called the despiser of the gods, an atheist tyrant. He has no pietas at all. He trusts only in his own right hand and his weapons.
But even he is given this moment of tragic humanity. When Aeneas kills his son, Lausus, who is trying to protect him, Mezentius is overcome with grief. He speaks to his war horse, rides to his own certain death, and his only request is to be buried with his son.
Even the villains in Virgil are given this complex dignity. Virgil refuses to dehumanize the enemy.
Which brings us all the way to the finale. Book 12, The Duel.
The city of the Latins is besieged. Queen Amata, thinking Turnus is already dead, hangs herself. Turnus realizes he has to face Aeneas one-on-one to stop the suffering of his people. He is the only thing standing between his people and total destruction.
It's the duel of champions, Aeneas versus Turnus. But of course the gods are still meddling.
Until Jupiter finally puts his foot down. He confronts Juno and tells her to stop. It's over. And they strike a deal. And this is crucial for the whole fate aspect of the story.
What's the deal?
Juno agrees to finally stop fighting destiny. If, and it's a very big if, the name of Troy dies forever. She says, let them be Lessium. Let them be Romans. Do not make them Trojans.
So the victory Aeneas has fought and bled for all these years is a form of cultural suicide.
Exactly. His people will survive, but their identity will be completely erased.
Yeah.
They will speak Latin, not Trojan. They will dress like Latins. They will adopt Latin customs.
Troy has truly and finally fallen. The mission was to save Troy, but the end result is the erasure of Troy to create something new.
It is. So on the battlefield, Aeneas finally wounds Turnus with a spear through the thigh. Turnus falls. He lifts his hand in surrender.
And he gives a great speech. He says, I have earned this. Use your chance. But if you have any thought for a parent's grief, pity my father Daunus. Return me, or at least my body, to my people. Lavinia is yours. Don't carry the hatred any further.
And Aeneas pauses. This is the moment, the climax of the entire epic. The text says he is rolling his eyes, hesitating, checking his rage. He is considering clementia mercy, the great Roman virtue. He's about to spare him. This would be the true philosophical victory.
And then he sees it.
He sees the belt, the sword belt of Pallas, shining on Turnus's shoulder. The memorial of his own grief and his failure to protect the boy.
And the text says, he was set on fire by these furies and terrible in his wrath. He shouts, it is Pallas, Pallas who sacrifices you with this wound. And he buries his sword deep in Turnus's chest.
And the poem ends with the line, his limbs grew slack with chill, and with a groan his life fled indignant to the shades below.
That's it. That's the end.
That is the end. No wedding, no coronation scene, no, and they lived happily ever after. just a killing in rage.
It's incredibly abrupt and so ambiguous. Is Aeneas a hero in that final moment? He ignored the plea for mercy. He failed the test of self-control.
He failed the final test of the Stoic philosopher. He gave in completely to furor. But from another perspective, he fulfilled his duty of vengeance to the dead Pallas. Virgil is showing us, I think, that the foundation of the Roman Empire, of any empire, rests on this paradox. It's built on violence. Peace is imposed by the sword.
It's a warning.
It might be a warning to his patron, Augustus. You can build this glorious new Rome, but look at the cost. Look at the humanity you lose along the way.
It's dark, but it feels incredibly real. It feels like the only honest way to end a story that's really about war.
I think it's the most honest ending in all of epic literature.
Okay, let's unpack this with some thought experiments. I want to take these ancient ideas and see how they apply to us right here, right now.
Let's do it.
But first, the standard disclaimer. These scenarios are for entertainment and educational purposes only, so please don't go trying to summon furies.
Or descend into volcanic craters.
Please don't. Okay, thought experiment number 1. The Leith paradox. In Book 6, Ancrates explains that souls have to drink from the river Leith to wipe their memories so they can stand to be born again. They need to forget the trauma of the past to have any enthusiasm for the future.
Right. If they remembered all the suffering of life, the wars, the diseases, the heartbreaks, they would simply refuse to go back.
So here's the scenario. Imagine a technology exists. Let's call it a Leith feature. You've gone through a terrible phase of your life, a messy divorce, a bankruptcy, a war, maybe just a decade of failure. You're bitter, you're cautious, you're tired. You can have this chip implanted. It will surgically remove the emotional memory of that trauma. You'll keep the facts, the skills you learned, but you lose the wisdom that came from the pain.
In exchange.
In exchange, you get your freshness back. You get the optimism and the open-heartedness of a 20-year-old. You are willing to take risks again, to love again without fear. So the question is the continuity of the self, which includes all the scars, worth the burden? Or is the will to live the higher good?
It's a great question.
If you erase the memory of burning Troy, are you still Aeneas? Or are you just some naive kid again? I have to be honest, looking at how exhausted Aeneas is by the end of this book, I think I'd take the chip.
See, I think I wouldn't. I think the Stoic answer, and probably the Virgilian answer, is that the scars are the point. The wisdom is the value. To erase it is to regress. If you erase the memory of the Trojan horse, you might just let in another one.
But if you remember the horse, you might never open the door to anyone ever again. That's the problem with trauma. It keeps you safe, but it keeps you small. Aeneas has to build a new world. Can you really build a new world if you're constantly looking over your shoulder for Greeks?
That is the paradox.
Yeah.
Aeneas is only able to build the future because he's forced to move on. But he never forgets. He carries it. He builds Rome around the trauma, not by ignoring it.
Okay, fair enough. Thought experiment number 2. The golden bow of fate. The Sibyl tells Aeneas, if the bow is meant for you, it will come away easily. If not, no force in the world can take it.
The doctrine of non-resistance to destiny, it's very Taoist almost. Wu-wei.
Right. So apply this to modern ambition. You're chasing a goal. You want to be a CEO, you want to marry a specific person, you want to write the great novel. You are working yourself to the bone, but every single time you reach for it, it fights back. Obstacles everywhere. The universe seems to be saying no.
But at the same time, another door opens up.
Exactly. Another door opens. A different career path, a different kind of life that you never planned, but everything there is easy. The doors just swing open. The bough is practically offering itself to you.
So do you keep hacking at the tree you want, or do you take the branch that offers itself?
That's the question. Is our modern idea of grit and never giving up actually a form of impiety? Are we just fighting the universe? Or is the resistance a test? Maybe the bough only breaks after you've pulled on it for 10 years and shown you really want it.
That is the tricky part, isn't it? How do you distinguish between the resistance that creative work requires and the stop sign of fate?
Aeneas didn't have to guess. He had a prophetess and a prophecy. We don't.
I think the Virgilian answer would be to look at the cost. If pursuing the goal is destroying your pietas, your duty to your health, your family, your soul, then you are forcing the bow. If the struggle ennobles you and makes you stronger, keep going. If it disintegrates you, let go.
If it disintegrates you, let go. I like that. That's a good rule of thumb.
Aeneas had to let go of Dido to be able to go and get the bow. Sometimes you have to drop one thing to be able to catch the other.
And on that note, I think we have reached the end of our own long journey. The Aeneid is so much more than a book about guys in helmets hitting each other with swords.
So much more. It's a deep study in the burden of the past and the almost unbearable price of the future.
Aeneas carries the past, leads the future, and in doing so, he basically obliterates his own present.
He is the bridge, and the bridge gets walked on.
So if you're out there feeling like you are carrying the weight of the world, just remember, you're in good company. You're building your own Rome, one painful step at a time.
And, maybe beware of Greeks bearing gifts.
Always. Thanks for listening to Talk Treatises. Join us next time.